The U.S. Secretary of State is locked in talks on the second day a major diplomatic summit. Marco Rubio making the case for the war on Iran. Mr. Rubio will be looking to rally his G7 counterparts to support Washington in this conflict, just after President Donald Trump rebuked NATO for what he called its inaction. Foreign ministers of the G7 also confirming they will raise the issue of Russia's support for Tehran. Before arriving in Brussels, Mr. Rubio said he was not there to make anyone happy and that he does not work for France or Germany or Japan. Recurring developments in the Middle East and the G7 foreign ministers meeting in France. We have Will Denselow reporting from Brussels and Nick Harper in Washington, D.C. Let's start with you, Will. How has Marco Rubio presented America's case at the G7 meeting?
Well, a real question for G7 foreign ministers as they awaited the arrival of Marco Rubio is whether he'd be arriving as President Donald Trump's attack dog or a mediator. Of course, this week, as you rightly mentioned, we've heard these explosive comments from President Trump, again railing against NATO allies, especially those here in Europe. He's described the NATO military alliance as a paper tiger, saying that the US has been there for NATO allies, but is dismayed that it hasn't been reciprocated with developments in the Middle East and Iran. He says that this is something that they will take note of as well. A particular concern for many allies is the fact that President Trump and Marco Rubio as well for that matter, has noted Ukraine as a conflict far away from the shores of the United States, but something that they have intervened in. For allies at this G7 meeting, there'll be a real concerns that this could be a warning from the Trump administration that actions in the Middle East could conceivably be interwoven with future actions in Ukraine.
Given that G7 counterparts to Marco Rubio will have these concerns, another war in Ukraine, how are they likely to be taking messages from Marco Rubio?
Well, we've heard from the German foreign minister who says that Germany is willing to take action, especially in the Strait of Hormuz, but only when hostilities end. That is something we've heard from the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz over recent weeks, including here in Brussels at the recent Leaders Summit, where he said that Germany would only take significant action when the guns fall silent. So it seems that Berlin's stance certainly has not changed. There is also a warning that we're hearing from a number of European leaders. We've heard from the UK's Foreign Minister Yvette Cooper, as well as Kaja Kallas, the EU's top diplomat, alleging that Russia is sharing intelligence with Iran, and that is being used to target, even kill US forces in the region. So a strong message we're expecting from this G7 foreign ministers meeting to Marco Rubio and ergo to the Trump administration, that further action is needed on Moscow to both strengthen its hand in the Middle East and Iran, but also as a double-edged sword to also have a positive impact for Kyiv as well.
All right, Nick, let's bring this conversation to you now. Nick Harper is in Washington, D.C. On the White House side, President Trump deciding to extend a deadline that he unilaterally imposed earlier on Iran to either open the Strait of Hormuz or face a wipeout of its power infrastructure. This signal from Washington, is that likely to lead to any kind of de-escalation?
Well, it's a little hard to parse the details, Wei Su. I mean, the deadline extension is really being seen in two lights. Either this is all about diplomacy or it is, in fact, about escalating the conflict even further. Donald Trump again pushing back that self-imposed deadline. But he is saying in the background there are very substantial talks taking place. His peace envoy, Steve Witkoff, also involved. He says there are strong signs that a deal is possible, but it doesn't seem as if it's coming together as quickly as Donald Trump would like, and that is why we're seeing these deadline extensions. Bear in mind, Iran has rejected the US 15-point proposal. It's offered its own counterpoint proposal, and as a result, the Strait of Hormuz, its fate is hanging in the balance. It's very much in the middle. Middle East allies have said that Iran has been holding the Strait of Hormuz hostage. And as a result, there is a push underway from US allies in the Gulf region to try and get it reopened. We know that the UAE is now pushing for a multinational task force. It would perhaps be called the Hormuz Security Force to try and reopen the strait. It's now urging other allies to join. Reportedly, Bahrain is on side for this while diplomacy takes place. But the deadline extension could be viewed in another light, and that is that potentially the Trump administration is looking to escalate the conflict as a way to end it, pushing back the deadline as a way to buy time to send more US troops to the region, potentially for a ground invasion. All of that remains very unclear, but there are perhaps two lines of thinking when it comes to the strategy behind Donald Trump's, again, decision to push back this deadline even further.
Oh, more than two lines if we consider we hear one message depending on the day from the United States and a very different one coming from Iran. So Iran urging civilians to stay away from areas where American troops are stationed. What's its intention there, and how is Washington likely to be reacting to that warning?
Well, I think that is part of Iran's strategy that we've seen in recent weeks, and they have issued similar warnings in recent weeks as well, telling neighbouring countries in the region that are hosting US bases to be on watch. We know that they have been targeting those US bases, and there have been civilian casualties in some of those neighbouring countries. So again, another threat from Iran that it is ready to retaliate. That will, of course, worry the United States, but it could push the US president to issue more threats of extra strikes on Iran. There are those threats and counter threats, all of it leaving Middle Eastern countries very worried. And I think that's why in the background we're seeing that pressure being put on by those allies on the Trump administration to de-escalate rather than escalate and try and find that path forward when it comes to diplomacy.
Oh, thanks. Nick Harper then, Washington, D.C., and earlier before him, William Denselow in Brussels, looking at Marco Rubio's meeting with G7 counterparts in France.